This is Metro. This is board of directors.
Started.
I think so. I don't know.
She called me.
Uh-huh.
She and I talked about this.
Oh, okay.
So
it's taken care of.
Yeah.
What was the answer on it?
That code enforcement is still working on it.
Okay.
So she got back to Roseanne.
Okay.
The code enforcement is working on it.
Okay.
So
I need to call code enforcement, make an appointment with them.
for your house or somebody else's?
Somebody else's. Okay.
So, that is complete.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the joint meeting of RPTA and Valley Metro Rail. Start the meeting with public comment.
Gotta do a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, you gotta do a roll call. You know, I said, don't give me a script. I can handle this. Clearly I can't. So
Last words.
Well, this
We have
is
faith in you.
where I shine, so.
All right, Pat, shine away.
City of Avondale, Councilmember Maxine White.
Present.
City of Buckeye, Councilmember Clay Goodman.
Present.
City of Chandler, Councilmember O.D. Harris.
Here.
City of El Mirage, Councilmember Monica Dorsey. Town of Fountain Hills, Vice Mayor Peggy McMahon. Town of Gilbert, Mayor Bridget Peterson. City of Glendale, Councilmember Lauren Talmachoff.
Here.
City of Goodyear, Councilmember Bill Stipp.
Present.
Maricopa County Supervisor Jack Sellers. City of Mesa, Vice Mayor Francisco Heredia.
Here.
City of Peoria, Councilmember John Edwards.
Here.
City of Phoenix, representing for Valley Metro Rail, Mario Paniagua. Okay. Town of Queen Creek, Vice Mayor Jeff Brown.
Here.
City of Scottsdale, Vice Mayor Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
City of Surprise, Councilmember Allie Klein.
I'm here.
City of Tempe, Vice Mayor Jennifer Adams.
Present.
City of Tolleson, Vice Mayor Lupe Bandon. Town of Wickenburg, Mayor Rui Pereira.
Here.
And Town of Youngtown, Mayor Michael LaVault.
Yes, Pat, I'm here.
Chair, we're ready to proceed.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat. So with that, we will now go ahead and do public comment. I assume we have at least one.
Mr. Crowley?
Ah, I lost it.
Your responsibilities are going to be on it, and then also 3 of the agenda items, the first of which would be in your mix where you're going to be extending the amendment into 2006 or 26. And according to the Prop 400 document, money can't go to rail other than for maintenance. It also has in the Prop 400 that fare box recovery has to be at 26 and 27 at 10%. 28 and 29, it's up to 15, and then 31, 32 and on, it's at 20%. What is the amount, Bill, that we get right now in fare box recovery? And with what the state is asking for, Jack, does this mean all of that, the 40% of the monies that you spend not on buses or infrastructure or getting people from point A to point B, but for them people, is that going to be part of what the state is demanding that you show a profit on? Now, the reason that you exist is air quality. Because with bad air quality, they cut monies from the freeways and the roads. So you have to show them that you're doing something to make that happen right. So, as I said, with them making both of the buses responsible for their existence, that they are in the Prop 400, what's happening with rail. So I believe that you have such good rail qualities in that, and you've been guiding that we need to bifurcate the agencies. You go with the rail part, and we get somebody new that is going to be the advocate for the bus, because when I look at the plan, how much did you guys input to show where this super grid's supposed to go? Because I don't see anything except for it saying we're going to support what we've got. That's what we're going to use the money for. When I hear that you can't do circulators, do you know why that is? Phoenix, with a weighted boat, eliminated that from the abilities. So when I hear that you guys want to have circulators and connectors and doing that, it's real easy. Change the rules and make it happen. And with your changes, where are the ones that I have shown over and over again in the West Valley? Avondale, Goodyear should have gotten some. Where is that? And how are you saying that you're getting the job done if you can't get done what was there?
Any others, Pat?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Bean?
Good morning, and thanks for allowing me 3 minutes. My name is Bob Bean. I'm the president, business agent of ATU Local 1433. We represent all the bus drivers and basically all the bus drivers in Arizona that are unionized, as long as they're light rail operators. And I'm here today, and I could not be happier. We have Keolis coming into the East Valley. 10 years ago today, basically, we were standing here trying to stop what happened with First Transit. And now I'm standing here actually saying, I am looking so forward to Keolis coming in. We have worked with Mark Perla, his GM Dave Todd, his maintenance manager Grant Hansen. I've worked with him basically on and off for the last 18 years. Mark started in the West Valley, went to the East Valley, and we've got a great working relationship with Mark and his team. And I'm just looking very forward to being able to start transitioning with Keolis to make this a very smooth and easy transition for our operators in the East Valley. Our operators are also elated with the change that's coming. The morale has boosted by at least 60% since they first heard that Keolis is coming in to run the East Valley buses. So, Mark, look forward to it. And the sooner we can get started making a transition with Keolis, the easier it's going to be on our operators. Thank you.
Ms. Caraza? Craza, I'm sorry.
Yes, I am Dana Craza. I am the Vice President of ATU. I have been doing this since 2005. I came to the Valley in 2002. I was working for Laidlaw. Laidlaw made a transition into First Transit is when I first met Mark. Mark is an outstanding general manager at the time. I've been working with Grant since Laidlaw. I worked with Dave Todd since he was a scheduler. You got a good team put together there. I'm looking forward to dealing with Keolis as a breath of fresh air in this valley because it's been really hard right now with who's there now. So I'm glad that this is the choice that you have made. Hopefully, it'll be final real quick and we can get the ball moving because we need to keep this transit moving in the right direction. And that's what me and Bob and Dwayne and Frank are trying to do is have a working relationship with our people that we need to be working with. This is like a marriage. I've told this Mark many years ago. It's like our second marriage. We have to be able to work together to keep this transit moving and to keep our operators happy so they want to come to work and not call off every day because they're dreading going into work. So that's my little rant for the moment. Jessica knows me and Mark knows me. So that's all I have to say for now and look forward to working with Keolis.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Item 2 on the agenda is the Chief Executive Officer's report. Ms. Miller?
Good morning and welcome to your first meeting as chair, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board. It's wonderful to see you all today. We actually have a special presentation to begin, and I would like to welcome our special guest from the Mesa Fire Department. We have Assistant Chiefs James Johnson and Assistant Chief Forrest Smith. They are here today to recognize our ACI Light Rail Supervisor, Sharon Neinhauser, and Sharon's actions recently to ensure the safety of our riders and fire crews as they responded to a fire near our tracks at Dobson in Maine on this past July 21st. Ms. Neinhauser? Please back up. Come on, come on.
Hello.
Surprise.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We're going to read a little thing and then say a couple words, if that's okay. Well, good morning again, Assistant Chief James Johnson, and with me is Assistant Chief Forrest Smith. It takes two of us to come to represent Chief Mary Camelli. She's unfortunately couldn't make it today, so we're here in place of her. So we'll read this real quick. On July 21st, 2023, at approximately 6 a.m., Mesa fire crews responded to a first alarm fire near Main Street in Dobson. Because of our crews and apparatus were very near the tracks, Fire Command initially had the light rail shut down for the scene safety. Once fire was controlled, Valley Metro Supervisor Sharon Neinhauser approached command to see if it was possible to get the trains moving. Captain Smith explained that she recommended that she would slow the trains down and walk personally with the trains as they passed by. They had never seen this before. She talked with each of the train's conductor and did this in a safe way. She allowed them, she slowed them down to a walking pace, and she literally walked with the crews and the apparatus to assure their safety. Sharon, your problem-solving actions that day were very commendable. We offer a huge thank you for keeping our crews safe. And just on a personal note, as we are in the field, we really thrive on relationships, and actions like this are outstanding. And to keep our crews and the public safe, working together is just priceless. So thank you for your actions on behalf of us. And we really, truly appreciate that. And all of your employees in Valley Metro, we have a great relationship with them, and we hope to always have that.
Great, thank you for serving. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
We're gonna go
over here.
Vice Mayor Heredia, would you like to join them for a photo?
Thank you.
Moving on, we have talked so much about the extension of Proposition 400E in this room. We'll continue to talk about that extension, but in the meantime, I think we need to take a moment to celebrate. Last week on August 10th, leaders and elected officials from across the valley joined the governor to witness the ceremonial signing of Senate Bill 1102. Without the leadership and support of this board and elected officials and leaders from across the valley, including Governor Hobbs herself, we would not have gotten this enabling legislation across the finish line. This enabling legislation gives us the opportunity to go to voters to continue operating, maintaining, building, designing our regional transportation system. I especially want to thank the board members that were able to join us on rather short notice, including Councilmember John Edwards, Councilmember Ali Klein, Councilmember Maxine White, Supervisor Jack Sellers, Councilmember Laura Pastor, and Vice Mayor Jeff Brown. Now, we've been focusing a lot on the enabling legislation itself, but I want to take just a mission moment and think about the people that we serve, for whom we plan, design, build, operate, and maintain the service, as well as the people here at Valley Metro who actually deliver the service. We have been working on a messaging campaign focused around the value of transit and the important service that we deliver to communities and the impact that has on individuals, their families, and the communities themselves. Got a couple of quick videos I would love to share with you. Hopefully this works. We have been sharing these videos through our social media channels. I pushed some of this out via email to our board members, and some of this content is on our website.
I use Valley Metro in so many ways. I am totally blind. I've been blind for 11 years. I got a right participation is here at Town Lake and participating in the sport of driving voting. Because I had the opportunity to take transit and ride through, I'm out and about, doing things I love to do, makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel included. And without Valley Metro, I would not have these opportunities.
I am an EMT, electromechanical technician. I'm necessary. I make sure it's good before anybody else does it. Every train has to be run every single night. It comes in, we inspect it, safety. That's the #1 priority. The ideal situation is if people even know I exist because these things are working great. I put close to about it, but it has to be safe. It has to be right. I won't rest focus.
Kudos to the marketing team for producing this content. We'll continue to produce additional content and messaging throughout FY24, but I want to especially thank the thousands of Valley Metro team members and contractors who deliver safe service to hundreds of thousands of customers across the valley every day. Go back one slide.
Are you clicking to Gina?
Yeah, thank you. So I want to give you a brief update. We have talked about increasing security across the system, and I want to give you a bus security update. Our public safety team, led by Director Adrian Ruiz, who's with us today, has been conducting increased Operation Blue Ride outreach. The photos here show our team working alongside police officers in the cities of Mesa and Chandler. We are working with our law enforcement colleagues so that they understand and are equipped to respond and also proactively patrol on buses across the valley. We will continue to keep this board aware and also engaged in conversations when it comes to forming those relationships and creating those proactive patrols through Operation Blue Ride.
Can you tell me why Tempe's not involved in that? Police department?
Adrian, could you come to the table, please?
Yes, members of the board, Chair, thank you for the question. Yes, Tempe is involved. Sergeant Trent Luco works with us and we work on identifying officers in the 100 group. So those are officers that are working in overtime capacity. They can spend some time on the rail. So just briefly, so we are extending. Currently, we do have in Tempe, Mesa, and Phoenix. We did an extensive one in Mesa, but
All right, we'll try and move through it. On another high note, we were awarded or notified that we would receive an award this summer from Federal Transit Administration's Low or No Emissions Vehicle. Valley Metro will receive a $13.3 million grant, which will be matched 20% by local revenues from Proposition 400. This program will support the purchase of 20 battery electric buses plus charging infrastructure to support 12 buses initially at the Tempe Bus Operations and Maintenance Facility. We also have congressionally dedicated funding that we have reserved for this purpose. We've been gathering it for some years until we were prepared to launch our zero emissions program. And at that point is now. We have been working with firm WSP, and now we are working to incorporate battery electric vehicles into our fleet replacement plan. To our member cities in the East Valley, we're working to schedule a meeting with East Valley staff next month to review our fleet replacement strategy, including the incorporation of battery electric vehicles over time. It is hot in the valley in August, and we and our partners have extensive heat relief programs. Something to note, I think, especially as a relative newcomer to the valley, I admire the durability and resiliency of our system. That includes our team members who are equipped and prepared. We're adjusting schedules. We are preparing them with water backpacks out in the field, but we are also reaching out to our customers. While our system is designed for heat and our vehicles have some of the largest AC units in the industry, our riders are not resilient to the heat. We're all people. And so in addition to staff out providing resources, we're providing water. Our road supervisors and customer experience coordinators and community relations outreach team members are distributing cold water and shade products at light rail stations and bus stops. We also have pop-up events along the construction of the South Central Extension in South Phoenix. To date, we've conducted more than 45 events of this type over the course of the summer. I want to give you a quick update on our capital projects. On the Northwest Extension, which is scheduled to open in early 2024, we have reached what we call substantial completion with the Federal Transit Administration. We're currently at about 91% complete. Next slide, please. We have now begun the testing and safety and security work along this 3-mile corridor or 1.7 mile 3-station corridor. We've completed the artwork. This is actually the terminal station at Metro Parkway. There's artwork on the platform, artwork on the concrete pylons. It is something to behold. And there is also artwork at the other stations, which have already been constructed. Next slide, please. These are is a photo of the at-grade stations. They look just about ready for service. And later this fall, we'll begin what we call our pre-revenue service testing. We'll also host a series of events for our partners and members of the public to experience this project, including the elevated bridge over I-17 before we begin service in 2024. Meanwhile, down south, work on the South Central Extension is now, next slide, 70% complete. This is a photo of work back in the winter as we were placing track on South Avenue, but most of the work now has shifted further south of downtown. Next photo shows Lincoln and First Avenue looking south. So now we are into the heavy site work at this location. We are laying track, conducting electrical work. This is a period of significant impact to the community on the South Central Corridor. We are working very closely with the city of Phoenix, our contract partners, and our community members to try and mitigate some of the impacts of this construction work in advance of our opening. Next slide, please. I am delighted to give you an update on the evolution of the Valley Metro leadership team, and I am pleased to welcome Jonathan Thacker, our Director of Contracts and Procurement. Jonathan, if you could give away. We won't make them, you tell them your origin story. Jonathan works under the leadership of Ken Kessler, Chief Financial Officer, who joined us late last year. Tom Young, who is no stranger to Valley Metro, is previously a Director of Accessible Transportation Services, has been promoted to Deputy Chief of Bus and Paratransit Operations. Tom has done a marvelous job in his role in Accessible Transportation Services. You'll hear from him on the East Valley contract because while he was leading paratransit, he also played a leading role in the scoping of our East Valley bus operations contract. Tom, congratulations. Last month, we also welcomed Darren Curry, our Chief Maintenance Officer. Darren and his team are responsible for maintaining all of our transit assets. That's vehicles, stations, operating facilities, track, and all of our rail systems. Darren and I worked together for years, and we are off to the races. Quick look ahead, our September board meeting cycle has been canceled. We will, in lieu of our board meeting day on September 21st, conduct a board of directors retreat to be held at our operations and maintenance center. You'll receive more information from Ms. Dillon on that in advance of that date. I strongly encourage in-person participation. I think we'll get a lot done on that day. This is also an opportunity for you to visit with us in our native environment at one of our operating facilities. It'll be good. And then we will resume our regular calendar of meetings in October with Transportation and Rail Management Committees October 4th, Audit and Finance Subcommittee on October 5th, and our Board of Directors on October 19th. Mr. Chair, that concludes my update.
Well, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none. Item 3 is, and it is my pleasure to not have to do this. Councilmember Goodman on Audit and Finance Subcommittee update as the AFS Chair.
It was like a tag you're it moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So as you can quite imagine, big shoes to fill, literally and figuratively. We had my first AFS meeting, and just to give you a brief update, Chief Financial Officer's update, Mr. Olson provided that update. Gave us an overview of revenues and fare policy as well as outreach. It was also the Mr. Olson show. The Transit Life Cycle Program gave us an update presentation regarding the suggested change to the Transit Life Cycle, program. Guiding Principle 6. This item is on today's agenda. The board will be receiving the same presentation. We also received a report out for FY23 fourth quarter. Overall budgets for RPTA and Valley Metro Rail are within plan. And then finally, Sabrina Beckstrom provided a review of the FY24 internal audit plan, which includes operational and performance reviews, an IT audit, as well as consultative services. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for Councilmember Goodman? Seeing none, item 4 on the agenda is an executive session. The joint boards will consider a request to adjourn the regular meeting and hold an executive session pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.03A3 and A4 for discussion with the chief legal officer regarding legal advice and to instruct the legal officer on possible litigation. With that, may I have a motion to go into executive session? A motion by Vice Mayor Adams, a second by Councilmember Harris. Are you going to do a roll call or voice vote? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Pat has information for those of you on the WebEx.
Right, so if board members could please disconnect from this WebEx and connect to the confidential link that has been sent to you. And then after the executive session, we'll come back to this original link, but we need to make sure that we leave this link. Thank you.
I don't want to start either. I will.
Oh, yeah, mine.
Not to mention the one direction you gave me on this agenda is allow a couple of minutes for board members to get reassembled. So there she is. She's on. Okay. We just have to wait for Mr. Harris. That's all good. All right, we'll go ahead and reconvene the joint RPTA Valley Metro Rail meeting with item number 5. May I have a motion, please, on the executive session item?
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the chief legal officer be authorized to act within the parameters set during the executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Nay. Glendale.
One nay. Item passes. Item 6 on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have items 6A through 6D. Does anybody wish to pull any of those items or have questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Councilmember Goodman. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item 7, travel expenditures and solicitations is presented for your information. Information was included in our packet. Does anybody have any questions regarding that item? Seeing none, item 8 is a report on current events or suggested current future items. Any suggestions? Seeing none, the next joint board meeting is Thursday, September 21st. I'm sorry. Well, it is a joint meeting, but it will not be a board meeting. It is a work session, essentially, retreat. Thursday, the 21st at 11:15. That concludes the joint RPTA Valley Metro Rail meeting. And we'll move right into the Valley Metro RPTA board meeting, which starts with the consent agenda items 1A through 1D. Are there any questions on this? Would anyone like anything pulled? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion
Second.
by Councilmember McMahon,
Second.
second by Councilmember White. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 2, if I could learn to read, is the item on the regular agenda, which is the Transit Life Cycle Program Policy. Ms. Miller, Mrs. Miller, how do you want to go by that? Jessica?
Jessica works just fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to invite Ken Kessler, Chief Financial Officer, to provide an update to recommended changes to the Transit Life Cycle Program Policy. Mr. Kessler?
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm going to be discussing a recommended change to the transit lifecycle program policy, specifically as it relates to the jurisdictional equity guiding principle. So there'll be a number of things to go over here in terms of some overview and background on the TLCP and jurisdictional equity, and then go through the process and discussions that have had leading up to this point of looking to make this change to the TLCP policy. So first, just want to touch on the TLCP in terms of the guiding principles originally approved by the RPTA Board of Directors in 2005. Just noting there at the bottom, number 6, jurisdictional equity, that originally was the term monitored, not maintained originally. A change was made after the Great Recession around 2010 to change that to maintaining jurisdictional equity, making it the highest sort of priority guiding principle for the program. So just getting into the JE issue a little bit, as a result of the Great Recession, we lost about 40% of the revenues forecasted for the 20-year program. And a working group was formed to address how to rebalance the program. So that working group came back with the recommendation basically to establish parameters, making jurisdictional equity the priority, and providing parameters around subregions, the East Valley, the West Valley, and the Central subregion, which is essentially Phoenix and Maricopa County, County Islands within Phoenix, to establish a plus or minus 2.5% within the allocated sales tax revenues, meaning a subregion could be within 2.5% either over allocated or under allocated in relation to the sales tax revenues. So that policy has sort of guided the programming of the TLCP since that point in time. So in recent years, as we've approached the end of the current Prop 400 sales tax program, there's been discussions about whether or not that policy to have those parameters as is makes sense, and specifically as it relates to allowing the subregion to go negative. So the concerns around that, if one or two subregions were negative, perhaps that would be and still within the parameters of the 2.5%. Perhaps that brings the total forecasted balance of the program into a negative situation, which is a situation that we really couldn't accommodate. We'd have to make some changes to adjust for that. So also recently we did an update to the financial model of the TLCP, and along with that was included in the action a clarification basically on the parameters and guidelines on how any remaining balances at the end of Prop 400, essentially the end of calendar year 2025, how any of those balances would be spent going forward, because the new MAG regional transportation plan for the extension kind of changed the approach to that, basically eliminating the concept of jurisdictional equity and making it more of a performance-based program on the transit side in terms of how transit funds are programmed and allocated to different projects and services. So with that, it kind of put us in a position now, okay, we're looking at the updated numbers here where each of the subregions were balanced with about a 1.5% balance at the end of the program. And so previous to that, we did have a subregion that was a little bit over allocated in the red, if you will. And so there was no action taken previously because that would have forced that subregion to make adjustments, cutting service or projects in order to come within the recommended new policy. So we're currently balanced, and even with the East Valley bus contract that we're going to hear a little later in this agenda, and the impact of costs related to the services going forward, the preliminary estimates for the forecast at the end of the program still show that each subregion is balanced at about 1%. So we still looking at a balanced program going forward. So we think it makes sense to revise the policy at this point to ensure that none of the subregions goes into an over-allocated status. So here's the existing policy at the top, and the primary change here with the new policy is going forward, if the board approves, not allowing a subregion to be over-allocated, meaning they have more expenditures through the 20-year life of the program than they do have revenues. So here's the recommendation. I'll spare you reading this very wordy recommendation. I'm sure you've either read it or you can read it. But basically, the main change, as I just mentioned, is changing that threshold from allowing subregions to go negative up to 2.5% to basically going into a position where they're under allocated by 2.5%, meaning they have excess balances up to 2.5%, but setting the floor at 0 so they can't be over allocated to any degree. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great. Anybody have questions for Mr. Kessler? Oh, Councilmember Tomachov, that little yellow hand is hard to see.
My little yellow hand, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to make sure I clearly understand, because there are some cities that are now, that have they have funding sitting there, then they're not, and I get confused under over allocated. I mean, I know some, I know we have both, but what happens to the funds? Let's just pick a number, say a city has $3 million sitting there, but they don't have anything left in Prop 400. And I know there are some cities in that situation. So what happens to the money? Is there going to be a carryover to 400E, or what happens to any unused funds that is it going to be used to even things out for the ones that are, overspent?
Sure. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Councilmember Tomachov. So basically, the action that was taken in April as part of the TLCP update approved the policy clarification whereby any balances at the end of Prop 400 will be spent based on the concept of jurisdictional equity, and the policies basically surrounded at the sub-regional level. And you're correct. There are some cities that may be in the red and many in the black at the end as we forecast it now. And really, it's up to each sub-region to work to determine how those funds will be programmed. So Glendale may, and this is hypothetical, Glendale may have an under allocation of $1 million. And there may be other West Valley cities that may be over allocated already, like Buckeye's an example. They were over allocated at the very get-go of the Great Recession because they had one capital project. It was done, and there was no taking that back. So the West Valley subregion would have to work together to agree on how the sub-regional balance would be spent. How much may be spent for Glendale service, how much may be spent for Goodyear, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense?
I had to unmute myself. Yes, it does. Thank you, Ken.
Sure.
Any other questions? Seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy change to the TLCP guiding principle number 6, which is jurisdictional equity, so that no subregions, transportation excise tax revenues may be over allocated while maintaining the other jurisdictional equity thresholds, allowing subregions to be under allocated up to 2.5% and limiting an individual jurisdiction's under allocation to a maximum of 7.5 million without that jurisdiction's express consent. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilmember McMahon, a second by Councilmember Harris, sorry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, item 3 is a presentation on the Valley Metro RPTA bus advertising policy change.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is an item being considered by the board today. I think it would be helpful to have a presentation from Hillary Foos, our Director of Communications and Strategic Initiatives. Ms. Foos will walk us through our existing advertising policy. I think it's also important to have visuals so that we can understand the impact of different levels of advertising on board buses, and this is specific to bus.
Hillary, thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon and talk about bus advertising. If you may recall, this item is on the agenda here, was tabled from our June discussion. The reason we're back at it is, if you may recall, in May, we extended our advertising administration contract with Outfront Media. At the time, there was a discussion about the policy. So at this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about what's contained within our current advertising policy, and also give a bit of history about advertising in the region, the benefits and some of the challenges of transit advertising, some of which we've discussed with this board in the past. Again, what our current policy includes, and if expanded, what we could see in potential revenue, additional revenue. Next slide, thank you. So this is a brief summary of bus advertising history in our region. The RPTA, particularly in the early 90s, took very strong stances on no advertising as a board. In November of 2021, this board made a decision to change that policy and adopted an advertising policy at that time. It is worth noting that since the mid-90s, the city of Phoenix has been advertising on its buses and its bus furniture. And so there has been advertising in and around this community for some time. Again, most recently, as I just mentioned in just earlier this year, the boards approved a contract renewal with our advertising administrator, Outfront Media, to continue to serve as our advertising sales administrator through June of 2026. And again, just to note, when we change our policy and that affects any revenue implications, that we will also do a contract change order with Outfront accordingly if the board makes any changes today. Next slide. A little bit about benefits and challenges. Again, some of this has been greatly discussed with this board. Advertising is also pretty subjective. We all have our own personal views on advertising, but generally the benefits are around revenue. We get outside the fare box revenue with advertising. It also allows us to preserve service. The more revenue we generate as an organization, the more service we can keep on the street. But certainly there are challenges. There are maintenance challenges, scheduling of having that advertising displayed on our buses. Certainly there are concerns that have been expressed around overall rider experience and visibility inside and outside of buses. That also tends to lean into overall public safety concerns, and certainly branding of our fleet impacted by the displays of bus advertising. And generally there's always this debate about using a public asset for a commercial use. And so some of this, again, has been discussed at this board level. And certainly these are discussions that happen amongst our peers in the industry. And so some of our peers, many of our peers have adopted bus advertising programs, so some of them also do it a bit differently based on their unique community needs. Let me talk to you a little bit about what our current policy includes. Again, the policy does two things. It really outlines the products that Outfront is available to sell. So, and I'll go into that in a little bit. It also has standards. What as somebody who reviews all the advertising that goes through a review process through myself, what the guiding standards for what we accept on the outside of our buses. So again, the policy today is exterior bus advertising only. That advertising is limited to between the wheels, so basically the center of the buses, and on the tails. The reason that the board at the time made that decision is that they still wanted the logo and some of the branding of the buses to remain visible. So with that advertising in the center of the bus, it allows some of that branding to remain. Currently, the fleet that's available for advertising is just our local fixed route buses operated by Valley Metro and select circulator services as determined by the circulator cities. Express buses currently are not part of the program. And again, as I mentioned, advertising standards guide the content that we approve, and that's also part of the policy. And those standards, I should mention, are also consistent with the city of Phoenix. So collectively as a region, we are approving the same content across our different advertising media. Next slide. Thank you, Tina. This just gives you a sense of the different products that are currently available as part of our policy and program. And again, as I mentioned, it's largely centralized between the wheel. Naturally, that blue area is the advertising space I'm referring to. So again, that center space and also on the tails. Next slide, thanks. So based on this board's discussion and feedback from the June meeting, there was interest in the potential of expanding to potential new products, maybe expanding to the fleet overall, allowing Outfront to have full reign of all advertising products and types and having full access to the fleet. So the potential expansion areas are really the opportunities to do full wraps. Today, our policy doesn't allow for those, as well as the express bus fleet. As I mentioned, currently express buses are not part of the program. As you can see in the two images on your right, there are a couple ways some of our peers have done full wraps. Full wraps like the city of Phoenix does is really, that bottom picture is really fully wrapped across the whole side of the vehicle. Certainly Outfront loves that option as it allows advertisers to have the full display. The top one is an example from our peers in Portland where they wrap, it's still a full wrap, but it's on the perimeter, leaving those windows open. So the next slide. These options, just note, are completely arbitrary. I essentially created these just to create some discussion. These options were developed with Outfront, just to give this board a sense of some of the options. If we opened up the policy further, what could the revenue potential be? So the first option is really, if we allowed Outfront to have access to some full wraps, and I arbitrarily picked 25%, you could see really that second bullet there, the MAG, just to remind you, is the minimum annual guarantee. It's really what we can generally commit to getting each year. Certainly we get 65% of the net. So at minimum, we'll get that MAG, but certainly if they sell more than that, at the 65%, we'll generate more. So you can see that first option gets us up to 600,000. The second option is unrestrained. They could put any type of product from those center section king and queens to full wraps on the local fixed route service on the current fleet that's available today. And you could see that MAG is up to $700,000. And option 3 is really the fully unrestrained model, which would also include our express fleet, essentially. So again, they could advertise any product type all the way from those center and tails all the way to the full wraps across our entire fleet, from local to express buses. And you can see that MAG goes up to $750,000. And again, just to remind you, as I mentioned, if they sell more than that, if it's a really great time for marketing and advertising, which we're getting back after the pandemic, we get 65% of the net. So the MAG is our foundation, and certainly we hope Outfront, and so does Outfront, that they will sell more than that and we get 65% of that. So with that, again, these are just options. We're happy to hear your feedback. And again, based on the board's feedback in June, we did have this for action based on option 3, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I was going to say thank you for the brief presentation, but you were able to jam in a lot of information.
Okay. I know everyone's excited about the next item, so.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Does anybody have
I just have a
questions?
question. I really like option 3.
Excellent.
We're always under the gun financially.
Understood.
Look very classy.
Yeah.
But let's take advantage of this great opportunity to generate revenue.
Excellent. Thank you.
Again, great.
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember White?
Sure, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation.
Oh.
I just wondered if there's any legal or logistical reason why we would not do option 3. Because I know that I drive past the express bus leaving the Avondale hub by the boulevard right around like 6:50 in the morning, and it's just great. And so to be able to have more revenues out in the different municipalities that are supporting the buses, I think that gives us increased revenue, and we need all the money that we can get to show our voters that we're going to be taking Prop 400E2, that we want to actually contribute some funds and generate some of these dollars on our own. So
Absolutely.
I think that I just wanted to know if there's any of those concerns.
Mr. Chair, council member, no, there are no, I'll let our legal counsel correct me if I'm wrong, but there are no legal concerns. Many of our peers and certainly our partners at the city of Phoenix do very much a very similar program. So there aren't any legal concerns.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go with Councilmember Littlefield first.
I had a question about the bus that was 100% covered with the balls or balloons. Or what is the visibility of the riders inside that bus?
Yes, Chair Stipp, council member, the windows are covered. They are covered in a perforated vinyl, so that it is perforated, but it is covered. So the visibility, both for looking inside and outside the vehicle, is impacted. But certainly that's part of the cost benefit analysis of the opportunities to generate revenue and some of the concerns, as I mentioned before, about the potential impact to rider experience. We don't get a lot of, I would say, customer service calls complaining about wraps, but certainly the windows are in fact covered, and so it does provide an impact.
Thank you.
Councilmember Talmadge.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say I'm happy we're finally actually going to be able to vote on this. This conversation's been rolling around for, I don't know, I think, well, before COVID even. So I'm just happy that we're finally here. I think especially now with the fare box recovery aspect of 400E, we have to take advantage of every opportunity to generate revenue. So I'm just thrilled that we finally are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, then I will entertain a motion that the Board of Directors amend the Valley Metro RPTA advertising policy to fully maximize revenue, which is the presented item option 3. I have a motion by Councilmember Harris, a second by Vice Mayor Adams. Are there any? Turner. Sorry, but the mayors are easy. It's the vice mayor and whatnot. Yeah. So we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right. Item 4 is a presentation and action on the East Valley Fixed Route Services Contract Award.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We are here today to request that the Board of Directors authorize me to execute a contract with Hewlett Services. This would be a 3-year base contract at a cost of $316,462,317, inclusive of a 5% contingency. Upon board approval, this contract would include options for a 4-year extension and another option for an additional 3-year extension. As a matter of background on this process, we've discussed this forthcoming contract for a long time. Here in this room, we did extend the contract held by First Transit, now by Transdev, for a period of 6 months to allow for rescoping of that request for proposals. In that time, Valley Metro staff worked very closely with our contractor to improve our performance. We have gone from missing around the 9% of trips in the East Valley to now missing less than 1% of trips in the East Valley, due in large part to wage rate increases authorized by this board late last year, and also by increased and improved contract management practices. In the last several months, we have created a contract oversight joint management program. If you would like to read about it, a summary of the program is in your packet behind this tab. This program really outlines in great detail what we haven't had before and what we desperately needed, which is a clear program for managing not just this, our largest operations and maintenance contract, but our other operations and maintenance contracts as well. It outlines the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, et cetera, parameters that we are monitoring within our organization. We've identified clear lines of responsibility and accountability for each of those items. We have reorganized our team to create procurement team members who are embedded within operations under the leadership of Jonathan Thacker, working very closely with Michael Powell and Darren Curry and their teams to ensure that we are eliciting very strong performance from our contracts and that we are leveraging our contract tools when and if necessary, and the results are good. We also engaged with the member cities in the RFP development or scope development process. Staff from East Valley cities participated not just in scope creation, which was facilitated by an external consultant, WSP, but they also participated in the evaluation of proposals. We ran a strong process. I'm confident in the recommendation we are bringing to you today, and I am even more confident in the capacity and ability of this team to lead strong contracts moving forward. I'd like to invite Mr. Tom Young, our new Deputy Chief of Bus and Paratransit Operations, to provide you with an overview of this contract. And again, I want to commend Tom for stepping outside of his then scope of work in paratransit to help lead our team through this period of transition. Tom, very well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Chair Stipp, members of the board. I'm going to do my best to talk as fast as Hillary did, but I can't promise that I can do that. So this afternoon, I'm planning on giving you a high-level review of the project, the process we use to develop the request for proposal documents, as well as the driving principles behind that. I'm going to talk a little about the evaluation committee involvement, the evaluation criteria, the service options that all proposers were required to submit to us, the proposal evaluation itself, and then finally the recommendation that Jessica just talked about. So this contract award recommendation is for the operations and maintenance of the East Valley fixed route bus contract, which includes the operation of 21 local fixed routes, 8 express routes, 9 circulator routes, and 4 school trippers using 231 buses at peak times. During the month of October 2022, Valley Metro hosted a series of 5 meetings with member cities and town staff to review the development of the scope of work. This effort was facilitated by Valley Metro's consultant, WSP. There were 5 driving principles or pillars used in the development of the process. The very first was the price structure. We wanted to create a pricing tool that allowed contractors to propose 2 models, and I'll review those models in a minute. Performance standards. We identified areas of the service that had traditionally underperformed and built the requirements for improvement as we go forward. Personnel. We focused on the key personnel and the positions that we required, but we let the proposers identify the staffing that they felt necessary to meet the requirements of the proposal that we developed. Operator training. We focused on outcomes for service improvement and customer service, and once again, let the proposers tell us how they were going to meet the qualifications and service criteria that we put in the RFP document. And then the 5th pillar, which Jessica just talked about, was contract oversight. So through the process, the WSP staff identified several best practices that they experienced at other peer agencies, and several were incorporated into the scope of work. In addition, the evaluation criteria and scoring weights were also a topic of discussion with the jurisdictions. So during the scope of work development process, we identified 5 areas for evaluating the technical capacity of each proposer. Service quality and a high focus on customer service was the driving factor in the assignment of the weights for each category. The technical evaluation accounted for 80% of the overall score. I'll get into the actual proposal evaluation in a few minutes, but I wanted to emphasize the fact that the evaluation committee looked at all the technical specifications absent of the cost proposals. It wasn't until we established the final scoring of the technical that the cost proposals were actually opened and evaluated. Starting in the process after the RFP was developed in November of 22, the full RFP hit the street. Valley Metro hosted a pre-proposal conference which included a tour of both the Mesa facility and the Tempe facility to ensure proposers had the full information they needed to properly respond. The evaluation committee was finalized and non-disclosure agreements signed, which included one Valley Metro employee and one each representative from the city of Chandler, Mesa, Tempe, and the town of Gilbert. Other Valley Metro subject matter experts included representatives from procurement, finance, operations, and maintenance staff. However, they were not members of the actual scoring evaluation team. So as referenced a little bit earlier, one of the pillars was to develop a pricing tool that allowed for contractors to propose two different service options. Option A was the unified service, which is combined East Valley service as operated today under the oversight and management of Valley Metro. The second option was the separation of operations and management between the Mesa facility and the Tempe facility, and the responsibility to manage those contracts. So I'll review the evaluation process and outcome in just a minute, but I wanted to show the difference in the costing of the service options that I just discussed. Overall, the unified service and management option provided for an average cost savings about 9.4%, with the following decision to maintain the current unified approach to the service delivery and management. So the process and outcome. All proposers were required to submit on all service options. We received proposals from 6 firms. After the acquisition of First Transit by Transdev was completed, Transdev chose to withdraw their proposal and keep the proposal of the incumbent provider, First Transit. One proposal was determined to be non-responsive, leaving 4 proposals for scoring. Proposers were instructed to submit their proposal in 2 separate filings, one for the technical proposal and one for the cost proposal. The evaluation committee members evaluated technical proposals to determine the overall qualifications of and also qualifications of the proposers. And we looked at the service delivery and where we felt the most comfortable on meeting the increased service requirements that we had specified. After we finished scoring of the technical proposals, the cost proposals were opened and evaluated by the finance department and then provided to the evaluation committee to add into the final look. The overall score of the technical and cost proposals ranked Keolis as the best value proposal for the operation and maintenance of the East Valley service. So for a review of the proposal term and cost of the service, the 3-year base term comes to a cost of $316,462,317. There are 2 options to extend the base term, which includes a 4-year extension, followed by a 3-year extension at a not to exceed 10-year contract. And like Ken, I'm not going to read the entire recommendation at this point, but staff is recommending the board of directors approval to authorize the CEO to execute a contract with Keolis Transit Services LLC. And I'm right now say the Valley Metro team is ready to answer any questions you may have.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Anybody have questions? That would be Mayor Peterson.
I turned my thing so you could see it, Chair. Not a question, but a comment. I've been here on this board since 2016 with a short time off when I ran for mayor. I have never had a situation that we have had people come to speak at the start of a meeting to praise a company that we were going to consider to vote on today. I have never seen that happen before. that is just phenomenal to be sitting in this seat at this moment as we're reviewing everything that you just told us, Tom, and the process that you went through to get to Keolis, but Keolis sounds like they were the best choice from the beginning. So I'm really glad to be able to sit here today. Thank you for all you're doing with your company. Thank you to the folks that came and spoke today, because again, I've never seen that in the years that I've been here on this board. So we appreciate having the feedback from the community, especially when it's positive, folks, especially when it's positive. We love that feedback, right, everybody? We love the positive feedback. So thank you. Thank you for the great presentation. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me the 2 seconds to say something.
You're welcome. Vice Mayor Heredia.
Same thing. I think wanted to thank all the staff and the committee. You know, it wasn't an easy process, I think, doing these options, but I think having a unified option, it makes sense. I think now, I know the comment around the contract management piece is going to be the importance as we move forward. How do we make sure that we, you know, Keolis and the company, you know, says what they promise in the contract, and that we do our due diligence at Valley Metro to make sure we hold them to the fire when issues come up. Because I think, as we know, when you're hiring so many people and, you know, you're dealing with the public, there's going to be issues that arise every time. So it is ensuring that we work together and ensure that we identify trends of issues that might come up, and look at those in more detail now with the systems that have been in place as we move forward, because this is probably the biggest contract that we'll be awarding here at Valley Metro, at least in my time over the last 4 years, and maybe in the rest of the time here. And so I think that's for real, that to our residents, that we make sure that our contract management from now, when they start, you know, we ensure that we get the best quality service moving forward for the workers, but also our residents here. So thank you.
Any other comments?
Chair Stipp?
Oh, you do?
Yes. Even though I'm from the West Valley, I just, my background in HR wouldn't leave me without acknowledging the fact that when labor comes in to talk about management and their pleasure with that, that's always just a really awesome thing to see. I think that hearing the potential for morale to continue to be boosted is important. And as we see the dollars here, getting cheaper service doesn't mean you're going to get a better outcome. And I think sometimes you get what you pay for. And to me, to see our organized workers who are out there saying, we believe in this, I'm grateful for that. Thank you for being here today. That takes time away from you working. But Chair, I would like to say that I want to support moving forward, because this looks like just the best option. And thank you for putting a good package together. And the evaluation criterion, you all did an awesome job by having meaningful points to evaluate to make sure we make the best decision. So I just want to acknowledge the leadership here at Valley Metro, Jessica and your entire team. You always do a great job, and I'm looking forward to this. Chair Stipp, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. Just thinking about, you know, being an elected official and seeing a contract come across this page, just to echo Mayor Bridget, this is my first time I've ever seen something like this in my whole entire life of being an I mean, we can't even get a city budget passed without. So it just says a lot about where we are with this company and the vetting that staff took to make sure, as Vice Mayor stated, holding companies accountable to what the contract will be the thing we'll do. But it sounds like, you know, and it appears that they're willing to step up to the plate like that, and they're nodding their head and shaking. So where's the cameras at? Make sure we get the nod and shake. The first time someone comes and is upset, I don't want to see no, I can't. I want to see you like, yes, bring it. Come on. So I just wanted to add those comments, and I'm just as excited and as positive as those that are here on the ground. This really does. This really does means a lot, and I just want to see us do well. And it seemed like the community is on board with it, and I'm on board with the community, so I'm on board with the decision. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Adams.
Yes, I'll make it brief, I promise.
Appreciate that.
You bet. Well, the city of Tempe was, when I first was on Valley Metro, we were really thinking about going on our own because the customer service was so poor. And I'm just really pleased that we have brought in a new company that appears to be highly recommended. I know our city staff really appreciated being included in the process. And so I commend the CEO and you for doing that and having a very inclusive process. And I look forward to and really appreciate the union coming forward also and showing their support. Now, in the city of Tempe, we have a really good relationship with our unions, so we don't always have bad things from the unions. A lot of times we have positive interactions, just hint, hint to the other cities. But we.
We digress.
Well, this isn't the first time I've seen union support, so I appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to moving forward and having excellent customer service. So I'm counting on you to make sure that we can get that done. All right, thank you very much.
All right, not seeing any other comments or any hands from the, oh, seriously? No, go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Chair, members of the board, while this does represent a new contract with Keolis, I do want to recognize that while the management company is changing, it is our great hope that the men and women who are out there performing under the current Transdev contract in East Valley will stay with us. They are valued. They are our most important team members at Valley Metro, and we will be moving through a transition and a communication process with them.
Great. All right, seeing no other comments, I will entertain a motion that we authorize the CEO to execute a contract with Keolis Transit Services LLC for the East Valley Fixed Route Operations and Maintenance Services. The contract will be awarded for an initial 3 year. No, God, this is my time to talk now.
It's his time to shine. His time to shine.
Contract will be awarded for an initial 3-year base term at a cost of $316,462,317 with a contingency amount of 5% for the 3-year base term with a 4-year option followed by a 3-year option. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Adams and a second by Mayor Peterson. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, item 5. Item 5 is if you've got any new current events or suggested future items. Seeing none and, oh, we do. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I got to bring up a lot of information here. I have a lot of gratitude I'd like to share from the West Valley. First of all, we talked about how service is going to be changing. So I want to just stop and thank Jessica and show appreciation to Valley Metro for their efforts of allowing our city to advertise our new We Ride and having We Ride ambassadors in the city of Avondale on our current Valley Metro operated Zoom service. This is helping the transition because our Zoom service will be ending at the top of October. So we are promoting and expanding our service to the south part of Avondale starting on October 2nd. We Ride will be free in the entirety of the Avondale zone from October, the top of October through mid-November for Avondale residents to try the expanded service and to celebrate our 1-year anniversary of We Ride in Avondale. Not only do we have appreciation for our We Ride, but we have some great partners. And one of those great partner cities is Chair Stipp's home, Goodyear. And so just to ensure we share some of those statistics, Goodyear has an average ridership of 67 passengers per day. Avondale, we're coming in at 72 passengers per day, but then surprise, what a surprise you gave us. You guys are getting 121 riders per day, Vice Mayor Klein. So I just think that's important information that we want to share with microtransit. It's a way for us to protect the environment, focus on the rides that we need to have in our communities. And this neat semester starting in the fall for like our Australia Mountain Community College students out in Avondale, they are continuing to get decreased fare. I believe it's $1 per ride. And the neat thing, I believe Matt Dudley from the city of Avondale had the opportunity to be interviewed by Axios Media to talk a little bit about this microtransit. So we just wanted to share our gratitude to Valley Metro, the member cities we're expanding, and to ensure that all of the additional board members know how it's going. Thank you so much, Chair Stipp.
You are very welcome. Anybody else dare? No, with that, that will adjourn the RPTA meeting again with our next joint meeting to be on September 21st. Please give a minute and then we'll turn the mic over to VMR.
Great job, Chair.
Good job.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, he must. Yeah. Good job. Right.
Couple weeks.
Good one.
Great job. Oh,
All right, we'll get started with the VMR meeting. Are we? Can we start? Yeah, my bad. All right, we convene and welcome to the August meeting. First item, we have the consent agenda. Consent agenda is presented for action. Is there any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none. Request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Motion with OD and Vice Mayor Adams, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. Item number 2, report on current events. Any current events, comments from committee members? Hearing none. Item number 3, next meeting is Thursday, September 21st. So quick and easy. Thank you, everybody. Have a good